Hello, Cancer Risings. Welcome to your monthly zodiac reading for the month of July 2025. There's a lot to get into this month, so let's not waste any time. As always, we are going to pull an overall energy theme for the month, tarot for each week. We will go over the astrological transits that are occurring during those weeks. We will clarify those messages with more tarot and see which transits are impacting you the most, and then we will wrap it up with some additional oracle guidance. So let's see what you guys need to know for the month of July. Surrender to the divine. Full moon. So this means that with the full moon energy, full moons are a buildup of energy, and around the full moon they are peaking. This energy is coming to a head, so to speak. And so for you guys, the month of July could just feel very intense, almost feel like the energy is just kind of jam packed. I know that right now Jupiter has just moved into your sign, which is your first house. This is your sense of self, your identity, and kind of how people, it's like our first impression. It's also how we see ourselves and how we see the world. But Jupiter is currently making a square to Saturn. And anytime we have a square, there's tension. And when we have tension, it can just make the energy just feel so much more intense. So right now that's occurring, and it's currently happening around your first house. But let's see. So that could be the energy that you're experiencing a good chunk of the month. I think it moves away, it lessens around the second or third week of the month. The Eight of Pentacles here in the first week. The Four of Swords here in the second week. Four Swords in reverse. The Eight of Swords in reverse. Very nice. And the Ten of Pentacles. Okay, that looks very, very nice. Here in the first week, we've got the Eight of Pentacles, which is about refinement. The Eight of Pentacles is kind of, it represents the entrepreneur. So if you're looking to start a business, this is a great week to really focus on what you want that business to be and begin to refine the fine details of that business. The Eight of Pentacles is also about mastery. Like, what are you trying to master in your life? This is also about, if we're looking at it in reverse, this could be self-mastery, but since it's direct, it could just be mastery towards something, mastery of your health, mastery of your finances, or even mastery of your closest relationships. On the 4th, July 4th, Venus, the planet of love, money, beauty, aesthetic, relationships, is making a conjunction to Uranus. Uranus is about liberation and innovation, and it's about the future. And a conjunction is a harmonious aspect. But so this means that there could be some sort of, you are either going to be liberated from relationships, money troubles, or health related issues, the things that you value, right? The things that we tend to value or put the most value on. There could be innovation, new ideas, a sudden realization around these things, or even it could mean that there's like a liberation from these things. And this is all going to occur right before Venus moves into the sign of Gemini. Venus in Gemini means that we could just be more inquisitive around the things that we love and value. On the 4th, we also have Neptune going retrograde within the sign of Aries. So we could be going within and reevaluating how we feel about our dreams, reevaluating what's actually driving us to achieve our dreams, and even reevaluate how we see ourselves as leaders or even leadership. How do we view leadership? Neptune is boundlessness. So it's boundless love, it's boundless spirituality. It has no bounds and can flow anywhere. I always imagine it being like this little foggy mist that kind of lingers in the air. So we can see the outlines of things, but they're not super crystal clear. But when this energy goes retrograde, it is going to make things very clear and really reveal to us the things that maybe you need to start focusing on and the things you need to master. Here in the second week, the Four of Swords in reverse. The Four of Swords in reverse can represent burnout, but this can also represent a semblance of acceptance. Like, I've accepted something and now I'm moving on. I've rested, I've gained clarity, and now I'm ready to move forward with how I see the world. On the 7th, Uranus is moving into the sign of Gemini until 2033. Now, the last couple times Uranus has been in Gemini throughout history, a lot of things globally have occurred. So we're definitely going to see this play out on the global stage. But as far as you guys personally, Gemini sits in your 12th house. And Gemini or Uranus being in the 12th house, you guys could ultimately kind of come into the 12th house governs our mental health. It governs our spirituality. It governs isolation. Okay. And with Uranus moving into this house, there could be a lot of innovation around the subconscious, a lot of innovation, new ideas that you want to move forward with in the themes of mental health or even spirituality, so to speak. I definitely think with swords being here, Uranus being considered the higher mind, Gemini being an air sign, I think it's going to have a lot to do with your mental health and how you can move forward in a way, or maybe just where you're burnt out mentally. On the 10th, we have a full moon happening within the sign of Capricorn. So full moons are a buildup of energy culminating into what we need to see so that we can release and move on. Capricorn for you guys sits in your 7th house. This is your long-term partnerships, marriage contracts, business partners. And for some of you, it maybe with the long-term partnerships or marriage contracts, maybe you're just burnt out. Maybe you're having to carry a lot of the mental load and it's burning you out. Okay. It could be that with these contracts, with these close interpersonal relationships, maybe you've just had to accept things the way they are, accept them for what they are, who they are, and allow yourself to move on in whatever way that looks like. Here in the third week, the Eight of Swords in reverse. The Eight of Swords in reverse typically represents we are releasing ourselves from self-imposed prisons, typically through thoughts or beliefs that we tend to tell ourselves. In some instances, the Eight of Swords in reverse can represent like being overly critical of yourself. So just be mindful of that. On the third week, Saturn is going to go retrograde within the sign of Aries. Saturn is discipline, time, it's karma, it's structure. And Saturn moving into Aries, this was a lot about structure around the self, structured leadership. And this is your 10th house. So you could be reevaluating almost maybe how bound and obligated you feel to your current career path, or maybe to your image. The 10th house also governs our reputation and our personal image, right? So this could be reevaluating how people see you, whether that's in the workplace or even in your personal life. On the 18th, Mercury is going to go retrograde within the sign of Leo. Mercury is thoughts, ideas, communications, and messages. And it also governs things like our day-to-day as well as local travel. So we could see delays within local travel. We could see delays and challenges throughout our day-to-day. Maybe like every step we take is just something that's kind of stalling the process of our day-to-day. It doesn't flow real easy. There also could be miscommunications between you and other people, mishaps with technology. A lot of these things tend to show up. Mercury retrograde has kind of developed a very notorious reputation over the last several years. So while it's not always a bad thing, it's definitely a nuisance, right? So it's definitely time to practice the pause, practice some patience. But that's happening in the sign of Leo for you guys. This is your second house. So this is maybe reevaluating your self-worth, reevaluating and rethinking your what you place value on, like your belief systems, your value systems, your financial assets, as well as your physical, tangible money and material items. Here in the last week, I love this for you guys. We've got the 10 of Pentacles, and the 10 of Pentacles kind of represents stability and comfort that's been achieved after a long period of time. It could be inherited stability and comfort that you're achieving or that you're receiving, but ultimately it just symbolizes this kind of happiness, this kind of equality that we find within our relationships, our finances, this kind of level ground that we find within our health, our relationships, and our material world, so to speak. This is on the 22nd. Leo season begins. So if you know a Leo, go ahead and tell them happy birthday. But if you don't, they will remind you that it is Leo season. We will also be experiencing a new moon within the sign of Leo on the 24th. So for you guys, again, this is your second house. New moons are new opportunities to set intentions. And with these intentions, you can kind of see where you want to go. Specifically with now that Mercury being retrograde, it's kind of revealing maybe it's having you reevaluate what financial security, financial freedom, stability, and structure look like for you. All right, so you can set intentions around what truly brings you comfort. What is it that you truly want to be investing in? On the 30th, Chiron, the wounded healer, is going to go retrograde within the sign of Aries. Again, Aries sits in your 10th house. This is your career. So this could be wounds around your career, really bringing up who we are as leaders within your career field or how people see you, right? Bringing up those wounds around that sense of self in this particular area of life. On the 31st, Venus, the planet of love, money, beauty, value, aesthetic, is moving into your sign. So this could be for you guys specifically a lot about self-love. A lot about self-love and a lot about placing value on who you are as a Cancer. Cancer is very nurturing, it's very kind, it's very motherly energy, it's very fun. I was surprised to learn at how fun and upbeat a lot of Cancer energy is, but you're also very kind and you're very protective, right? You're very kind and protective. So it's allowing yourself to put value on those qualities that you really truly believe that you find value in within yourself. On the 31st, Mercury is going to be making a cazimi within the sign of Leo. A cazimi occurs anytime a planet comes into close proximity with the sun, and it's because the sun is amplifying the themes of that planet. So again, for Mercury, this is thoughts, ideas, communication, but this energy is retrograde. So this could be amplifying any thoughts or experiences that you're rethinking and reevaluating. Again, maybe having a lot to do around stability, structure, and your finances and what it is that you place value on. Here, let's see. I apologize if you guys can hear that. I don't know if you can since I have the microphone on, but the lawn guys decided to show up about the time I started this reading. So if you hear them, that's them outside. But let's see. Let's see what Cancer energy needs to know for the month of July. Okay, here in the first week, the 8 of Pentacles, the 3 of Wands, really, I think, refining and figuring out what it is that you want to master. What do you want to refine? What do you want to focus on? And really seeing where that's going to take you in the future, or where do you want these things to go with the 3 of Wands? And then ultimately taking action on either communicating that or just ultimately learning what you need to know. So if you are embarking on the entrepreneur path, refining that vision, refining what it is that you feel like you want to do for a business, and then really like learning as much as you can and seeing how far you want to go with it. If this is not entrepreneurship, that's fine. This can also be about, like I said, refining things like your relationships, refining things like your health. If you're on a health kick, really focusing and refining on what works for you and maybe what doesn't, and seeking to take action on what it is that you're learning with the Knight of Swords. Here in the second week, the Four of Swords in reverse, the Five of Coins, feeling very burnt out. I really do feel like this is probably burnt out with the Five of Coins, feeling like there is a lot of hardship, that maybe you're feeling left out in the cold, like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. But the Seven of Coins, or the Seven of Pentacles, is like, just have patience. These things are coming around. The inner surrender. There's not a whole lot that you can control when it comes to the physical world. Like there is, but there isn't. You can control certain things in regards to your health. You control what you're eating, when you're eating. You can control how much sleep you're getting. You can control how much water you're drinking. You can control when, where, and how you spend your finances. You can control how you communicate to others and improving upon things like that. Those are the things that we can control. But ultimately, there's a lot that is out of our control. So for you, it sounds like because the full moon is happening in your 7th house, again, if this is business partnerships, maybe you're just burnt out and maybe you feel like I said, you're left out in the cold, but just have patience. Just have patience that all of the seeds that you're sowing, all of the seeds that you're tending to, all of the things that you're investing your time into, it's going to pay off in the future as long as you can be consistent with it. What else is happening second week? Gemini, this is your 12th house. Again, big focus on your mental health. If you're feeling mentally burnout, feeling like there's no light at the end of the tunnel, I want to point out too that the 12th house has a lot to do with spirituality. And here, this particular card is sitting outside of a church. Okay, so it could be that maybe this is one of those moments where you need to just maybe surrender and tap into a little bit of that faith that can come forward. Tap in and have that faith that whatever it is that you're tending to is ultimately going to pay off in the long run. Okay, here with the Eight of Swords in reverse, the Three of Coins in reverse, and the Moon in reverse. So with the Eight of Swords, it almost feels like maybe this release or this relief around mental stress, or these, like I said, these self-imposed prisons, is going to come due to the fact that you are going to choose to walk away from something. This could be a collaborative effort. This could be a career, choosing to walk away from a career. But whatever it is, you need to listen to your intuition. Try not to let your mind or others have too much influence. The Moon in reverse is telling you to recognize that this is part of the divinely guided path. Any changes that you're making around this time, as long as they're not super impulsive and as long as you're listening to your intuition, are meant to be divinely guided. That's why you need to surrender, right? Anything that you're choosing to let go and walk away from at this time is divinely guided, and these things are meant to fuel your evolution. So here in the 30, like I said, with Mercury going retrograde, this can feel very much like choosing to let go and just a need to surrender to the unknown with the Moon in reverse. For some of you, I'm also getting the inclination that this can be being very critical of yourself, maybe because You feel like if you're in a work environment, a collaborative environment, you feel like maybe what you're saying and what you're doing just is not, I'm trying to find the right words or the right phrase. Like there's not a lot of communication. There's not a lot of communication between you and ideally two other people, right? Like none of you are on the same page. Everybody's wanting to do their own thing, thinks it's best to go their own way. And in reality, it needs to be more of a collaborative effort. So it could be that you're placing a lot of pressure on yourself or a lot of expectation on yourself, when in reality, it needs to be more of a collaborative effort. You don't have to be like, especially with Saturn going retrograde, if you are like reevaluating who you are as a leader, do I have what it takes to be a leader? Do I have what it takes to do A, B, and C? It's not about you, it's about a group. So, yes, you can do your part, but you need others to do their part as well, if that makes sense. So, here in the fourth week, the 10 of Pentacles, the Queen of Coins, very nice, getting very clear, very structured, and very practical with how you're approaching these long-term goals. How are you approaching this stability? And even maybe taking charge and becoming, I don't want to say becoming the leader, but just recognizing that maybe this is a collaborative effort, but you're very good at what you do. You're very good at what you do, and that deserves to be recognized. The Queen of Coins or the Queen of Pentacles, she is a queen. She's very nurturing. She takes note of the collective and the needs of the collective or her kingdom, and she focuses on that. She plans for that. If you know that your team or your family or your relationship is going to need, if they're going to have appointments that are coming up, if they're going to need time off, if they're going to need, if you've got a project coming up, if there's a goal that's coming up that needs to be worked on, you are the one setting that stage to ensure everyone's success. But you're very good at it. It's something that probably comes very naturally to you. And then here with the Eight of Cups. So the Eight of Cups feels very odd in this particular setup, simply because one, it's a cup with two other pentacles. So this is a lot to do with maybe balancing the emotional and the material. While you focus on having structure within your day-to-day life, while you focus on having structure maybe within your career or within your, like I said, your relationships and your day-to-day, like maybe even the home environment, you're meant to also be going on like a very spiritual journey. You're meant to be doing this self-reflection. You're meant to be seeking out what brings emotional fulfillment to you. And especially with your 12th house being activated, I definitely feel like that's probably the case. Really going on that spiritual journey, getting to know yourself a little bit better. The 12th house has a lot to do with the things that we keep in the shadows, like our skeletons in the closet, whether that's our mental health, our addictions, our escapism. It's the things that we hide away from others. So it could mean that maybe you're meant to go, while you're on the surface, you're keeping things very structured and very stable. Internally, you're meant to be doing a lot of self-reflective work. Fighting spirit. If there is something that you're really wanting to work towards, don't quit. Keep going. Surrender to the divine. Here in the last week, the day that you plant the seed, I love that the fact that this came out, especially paired with the Seven of Pentacles, because the Seven of Pentacles is all about planting seeds. So keep going. Even though it feels like you're burnt out, it feels like there is no light at the end of this tunnel, you're just being left out in the cold, you're still just needing to tend to that garden and have patience. Hope is on the horizon. I love that. Recognize, like, listen to your intuition. The moon in reverse can represent that you're not really listening to your intuition. You're not really listening to your dreams, and you're not following that pull. Maybe there's a fear of the unknown, that if you step out of line or if you step in a way that seems unorthodox, that things are going to come crashing down, but that's not really the case. Remember, everything is a collaborative effort. You and the divine are creating something. It is a collaborative effort. Okay? You don't need to be critical of yourself because hope is there. You just have to keep trudging through the muck. As hard as that is to say, disconnect, go on that spiritual journey. Like I said, the Queen of Pentacles, she makes sure that everyone else around her is good. She anticipates the needs of the people closest to her. Again, whether that is a work environment, that is your personal relationships, that is yourself. She anticipates what those around her need in order to feel safe, stable, nurtured, and secure. She anticipates those needs because she knows them. And she's not stupid. She's very intelligent, she's very practical, and she's very smart. She anticipates those needs, and she ensures that everything is set up the way it needs to be so that other people can feel that safety and that security. But for her personally, she's going on a very deep spiritual journey, and it may require her to disconnect for a little while. So I truly hope this helped. I apologize for the interruptions. I know I can't help the lawn guys being here, but that just sucked. So I apologize for that. I hope you guys enjoyed this reading, and we will see you next time.